So in keeping with my reviews of slightly obscure kits and non-mainstream kits here, I wanted to do this one. This is the Amodel Hawker Fury, and this is the Spanish version of the Hawker Fury. And I think it does have actually a different name. It's also the Hawker Fury, but I think it's also known as the Spanish Fury. There's just a couple differences. It's a Hispano engine, and also there's a few differences to the undercarriage. So getting into the kit, we've got fold-out instructions here from Amodel. And this is the Hawker Fury Hawker Fury, there you go, I'm reading it as it says it, the Hawker Fury Spanish, which is literally, I think, we might be able to find out here, I think it's a license-built one. Yeah, so there was 40 fighters were license-built in 1937. So, 3 were supplied by the Hawker Company to Spain. And they were equipped with the Hispano Sousa engine, and then under license there were actually another 40 of these fighters built in Spain. So that was the few quirks. That's why there's a few differences, because they weren't actually built by Hawker. Typical stuff here from Amodel. So you've got an open plan there, and pretty much the build is completed again across these 5 stages. And we've got a cockpit here, quite rudimentary, just a floor, a seat, but you know, the necessaries. And then as we go through, the fuselage halves go together, incorporating the cockpit with an instrument panel that does have a decal for instruments, which again is a nice addition in a kit like this. The propeller also goes on, as well as the top of the cowling. Then we're on to the lower wings, again noting that there's no locating pin marks here, so it's just a butt join, and then the rudder and the horizontal stabilizers are going on. Then we've got the top wing going on as well with the struts. We do look like we've got locating pins there. Hopefully we have. You tend to get a few where you need to in Amodel kits. And then the undercarriage is going on. Then we've got 2 marking options, both obviously Spanish Civil War options. You've got one Republican one, which is the Hawker Fury for the Spanish Air Force. This would be roughly around 1936. The fact it's got roundels means that it was in the Spanish Air Force before the war broke out, so it's a sort of 1935 aircraft roughly, or maybe even 36 before the war broke out. Then we've got a captured version which is in with the Nationalist, and it's showing familiar markings here that you'd see from other aircraft like in the Condor Legion or with the Italians, and that is with the St. Michael's cross on the back here, which is the black cross on a white background. We've got 4W, and then I call that 0, but it's not. It's a circle, and then 1. Then we got markings on the top and bottom to make sure that ground crew and other aircraft know that it's a Nationalist airplane. And colour callouts here are in Humbrol, so they're quite easy to convert and quite useful. We've got a nice decal sheet here, so looking at those, we've got the instrument panel here, which is as a decal, and quite useful. We've also got the markings for the Nationalist aircraft here for the top and bottom with the white and the black stripes. St. Michael's cross on the back, and then the red markings for the Republican aircraft, as well as the rudder markings for that as well. It is worth noting that these do have quite a lot of carrier film around them, so careful cutting would be useful. Just to point out, the instrument panel carrier film goes out as far as here, so that goes around like that, and same on these. There's probably a good couple mil around there, so just something, it's easy enough to cut those. Now I've got 2 of these kits, and one is supplied in a Ziploc bag, the other is in a staple bag, but the same applies. They are in, all the sprues are together in one bag. And as you can see, this is a nice simple little kit here, across 3 sprues with a clear sprue as well. So we'll do this review looking at all 3 sprues. With a limited run kit like this, you do get a few things that are lacking, which are locating pins. So we've got butt joints here for the lower wings. There are no locating pins here for the fuselage, and we also do get, you know, flashy bits, and sometimes you get seam lines and mould lines running around. Here you can see, if we zoom in, there's quite a considerable amount of flash around the seat here. on both sides. But everything that you would come to expect from a short run kit. And as we've zoomed in there, if we look across some of these sprues, so here you can see there are locating marks and pins. There are locating points here for the struts, which is useful on both the lower wing and the upper wing. We've also got two different types of rudder and tailplane here, and that is based on the fact that this is also a Hawker Fury, and in the instructions you need to pay attention because there it is blocked out. So that's blocked out, so we won't be using one of these. And nice ribbing detail here actually. It's very subtle. This is the thing with Amodel, when you're looking at it off the sprue, it can look a bit kind of roughly done, but the detail is very much there, and they are very nice kits. Usually a little bit expensive for what they are, but that is reflected in the fact that it's a smaller company, so you've got to put up with that. Then we've got the sprue with the fuselage halves, and there's the top of the cowling here, which I imagine is also, this sprue is mixed between two different versions to show the different type of engine. We've got interior detail on the cockpit sidewalls here, which is a nice feature, and again ribbing detail is very subtle. Panel lines are very nice and in scale. We've got recessed rivets as well, which are quite nice, and the detail is very much there. It's a very nice looking kit. Here are the wheels as well, which are a little bit simple, but you know, the wheels were simple, so that's what you get. A little bit of flash on the propeller, but again nothing that someone with a little bit of experience of building model kits would have any problem with. Then the final sprue has parts for the cockpit, the struts, and a few other small parts. Looking at the clear parts here, we've got one small windscreen here, and it is actually quite nice. It's quite good scale thickness. If you did want to have a thinner version, then you could make it out of clear plastic that you might find in a lot of food packaging, for instance. And if you just bend it around this as your former, then you'd get the shape. So that is the Amodel Hawker Fury for the Spanish Air Force 1939 in 1/72 scale. A nice kit of a nice interesting model. There's a very interesting paint scheme. Both schemes are camouflaged, especially this one is a very interesting scheme, and it does scream out to be done. Might be a little bit tricky on 1/72 with an airbrush, but is always worth a go. Hope you enjoy that review, and stay tuned for more.